No, this isn't an all-new episode of House of Dragon, but next week's primaries are shaping up to be their very own Game of Thrones, people. So pour a drink because we are bringing you into our group chat about politics and the next generation of leaders in our country. This is Political Playlist Happy Hour.
Welcome to Political Playlist.
All right, are we ready, guys?
Happy Hour.
Happy hour.
We fucked that up so bad.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Political Playlist Happy Hour. I'm Anna Muskie-Goldwyn.
I'm Anthony Barquette.
And Michael is apparently maybe gone forever. We're not totally sure where he is. He's on some island or somewhere. And
Drinking
we wish
pina
him well.
coladas.
I feel like pina colada.
Swimming, having a great old time while we suffer here in Southern California.
And we are suffering because we want to bring you guys all of the latest and greatest around political news. And I will say we have a big week coming up next week because there are a lot of primaries. Most of them are on Tuesday. One of them suspiciously is on Thursday, which I don't fully understand because I thought we always voted on Tuesdays. But clearly I'm wrong. But next week we have Michigan, Missouri, Virginia, Kansas, Washington, Hawaii on Tuesday. And then Tennessee, the lone wolf, on Thursday. For whatever reason, their primary is happening on August 6th. But we decided to talk about this today because what's unfolding in the primaries, there's a lot happening. There's some interesting intra-party fighting for the Democrats.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of interesting stuff happening with the redistricting and gerrymandering for the Republicans and what that is going to kind of shift in some of these states.
Okay.
And overall, as much as politics really is, in a lot of ways, unfortunately, like Game of Thrones, a bunch of power-hungry people.
Yeah,
it also does. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, basically, right? It all is Mitch McConnell, first victim.
R.I.P.
It also does affect all of us. So even though you might not live in one of these states, the people who are represented from these states will be casting votes that will affect your lives. And also what's happening within these political parties, which we unfortunately only have two of, but that's not really going to change anytime soon, is also going to affect you and your future. So we thought that because there are so many primaries on the horizon, that we would tackle the races that we think are the most important to be watching and why we think that they're pretty meaningful. So shall we dive in?
I think we should.
Okay.
I mean, I would love to get started because I think this race is one of the more wild races that we're going to.
Okay. Go ahead. I thought I was starting, but if you know.
Okay. Well, I'm normally a ladies first type of guy. I'm that type of gentleman. But in this sense, I'm going to go first.
Fine. Take it away.
Anna, can you imagine running for Congress without knowing whether the district you're running in will even exist on election day?
No, that's crazy.
Yeah, so that's exactly what's happening in Missouri's 5th congressional district. Republicans redrew the map, hoping to flip a long-held Democratic seat, but a legal challenge could overthrow this entire election into uncertainty after voters have cast their votes. So this is honestly one of the strangest House races in the country. It's Missouri's 5th congressional district. As I mentioned, Republicans redrew this. Currently, it's held by a Democrat, Rep. Emanuel Cleaver, who's been in the seat since 2005. The primary is on August 4th, and voters could essentially nominate a Republican in one district, and then that district could effectively disappear before the general election.
That's crazy.
Does it not feel like a little bit of a waste of money to you? Right?
A little bit of a waste of money. It just feels like a little bit of a waste of everything. Everyone's time, everyone's energy, everyone's money.
Yeah. So remember when the country was going through this whole redistricting, fiasco? Missouri was one of those states. And they want to break up Kansas City because it's primarily more democratically focused there and bring in some of those rural Republican districts. So there are 6 Republican candidates running for the seat. And the reason why this is big is because they have a good opportunity to take over this seat.
Okay.
As you can imagine, the 6 Republican candidates are all white males. Um, and
Brad, Chad, Mike.
you
Did I get some of them?
you got one. We got a Brad
Okay.
Pat. We got Brad Patty. We got a Burton Knox. We got a Brett Huffenmeyer. Taylor Burks, Rick Bratton. The only one that kind of throws a curveball to me is Micah Beebe, but
Oh.
he doesn't really seem to be in the race. It's really the state senator Rick Bratton and Taylor Burks who seem to be the ones who will win this race. But one of the crazier things about this is most of these Republican candidates don't even live in this newly drawn district.
That's insane. So they don't, do they live in the old district?
Yep. But it's legal that they can, like, members of Congress don't actually have to live in the state. They only have to live in the state they represent, not necessarily the district.
I feel like someone should change that
Right?
law.
That feels like an easy change to me. So, just really quick, Rick Bratton, he's about 45 years old. So essentially he'd probably be on our playlist. And he's currently a state senator. He previously was a state representative, though, in Missouri. He was county auditor, small business owners, U.S. Marine Corps vet. So pretty good resume, I would say. And the other candidate who's in their earlier 40s, he's a former county clerk. He's a former director of a labor standards for one of the counties. He also was a commander in the U.S. Navy Reserve, and he's a fifth generation.
So basically,
Missourian.
there's two candidates who are both military veterans and have both been serving in public office.
Yes,
and they're both named Chad.
I mean, close, Taylor and Rick, but yes, basically
that's what I'm kind of like. Okay, it sort of feels like we've just got like two of the same guy spending probably millions of dollars to try to get a seat that might not even exist.
Yeah. I mean, one thing that kind of goes though with our political playlist theme is the one whose favorite is being looked at as the career politician versus the other one who's like, I'm not the career politician, I'm the younger one. That's why.
Even though he's a county clerk.
Yeah. I mean,
okay.
But he hasn't been in it as long as.
What I will say about this is I feel like this is just such an example of why these redistricting wars and all of that bullshit is so annoying for average people. Because can you imagine you're like trying to be an informed citizen and you are casting your ballot and then you read some headline saying that your district might not even exist in a couple weeks, and I don't know, then what do? They just resend ballots to try to figure out who the next nominee is. Like, it just is because everything moves at such a slow speed bureaucratically when it comes to these kinds of things like redistricting, it can't keep up with the election cycles. And so the people obviously who then get screwed are the constituents who don't accurately get to vote for the people that they want to represent them. And I feel like this is why we don't have mid-cycle redistricting. And this is why gerrymandering in general is terrible because it's stripping power away from people. And this example in Missouri seems to be pretty primo of why this is all around just a bad idea. And we should stop doing it. We should just stop gerrymandering, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree. And this is, to me, like, if this does now get overturned, like, what a waste of freaking money again. Like,
totally. It's a waste of money. It's a waste of people's energy. It's a waste. I mean, you can think about the people who go out and try to campaign for, campaign for different candidates or volunteer their time and whatever. It's all very stupid. And it's not helping anyone. Shall we shift to the other M on our list?
Yes.
Michigan. So we talked about this race a couple years ago. Oh my God. Woo, I've got a case of the Mondays. A couple weeks ago. And this Senate race in Michigan on the Democratic side is heating up even more because Haley Stevens has now not just gotten the endorsement of the outgoing Senator Gary Peters, but she has the endorsement of Governor Gretchen Whitmer. And on the opposite side, Abdul Al-Sayed, or who I know you like to refer to him as Dr. Abdul, which he has not consented to, but he is a doctor, so we'll call him Dr. Abdul, that he has national endorsements from Bernie and AOC and is really riding this like progressive wave of excitement that we've seen in states like New York. Elizabeth Warren, that we've seen in states like New York and Colorado. So what I will say is that Abdul is really winning the messaging race, I think, for sure. His ads are amazing. His online presence is amazing. But then I do think that, and Michael has said this on our last episode about it, Haley Stevens does have a pretty good record in Congress, and namely that she was one of the chief engineers of the CHIPS Act, which was huge for the manufacturing industry, of which we know Michigan is a very important place for that. So I think that there's going to be this interesting thing of like, is the kind of online national frenzy around these progressive challengers going to overtake whatever ability Stevens has to point to her track record as a legislator, and which of those is going to be more important? And the other element of this race, which cannot go unnoticed, is that El Sayed is really going after Stevens for taking big corporate money. We had our episode a few weeks ago with Nico from Stalking the Capitol. Haley has an F rating on their political integrity pledge for taking corporate money, specifically from AIPAC, the Israel government aligned super PAC, and is getting a ton of flack for it. And I sent you and Michael this video that came up on my Instagram of Stevens like at some, event outside or whatever. And there was this very nice woman who had a baby strapped to her chest coming up and talking to Representative Stevens about something. And she said, look, I'm a Jewish American. I'm a Michigander, but I want to understand why you're okay taking money from AIPAC. And it was one of the most uncomfortable videos I've ever watched.
So awkward.
I'm thinking to myself, Haley Stevens has been in office for a while now, like 4 or 5 terms. And okay, you're taking money from AIPAC. You're getting a lot of flack for it. Girl, how do you not have an answer in the can when someone comes up to you and asks you about it? Like, you can defend, you can deflect, whatever. But in this video, she literally just walks away from this woman. It's so weird.
So awkward. So this is what I don't understand. I'm like, so for starters, the world is nuts. The narrative on Israel has changed just drastically, right? In the last few years.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what her issue is in saying exactly that. Like 4 years ago, this was not a question. Now it is. Like these were, people who are my supporters from the beginning. Like it's.
Well, that's the thing. It's like whatever your answer is, even if you're already getting flack for taking the money. So you're going to get flack for whatever your answer is, right? But my opinion is you have to have an answer. Like you have to have some sort of response for people who are going to come up and say this line of attack against you. Like you can't. The deflection to me looks worse.
Also an answer to the biggest question out there right now.
Right.
It's not like, oh, what are you going to do with taxes?
Right, right.
Like everyone is asking you this question.
Surely you should have a staffer dedicated only to this.
Yeah,
right?
You're like, ChatGPT, Claude, all of this. Get me 1,000 answers I could look at, and I will pick one of them.
Well, on the other hand, Abdul Al-Sayed.
Sorry, really quick. If you were like, pretend you are Haley Stevens running it.
No,
like
totally.
This is one of her like interns, like, and you are running. How would you answer this question?
By the way, that's all you got to do. Because the thing is, you're going to get the criticism no matter what. But to me, there is nothing worse than a politician who looks like a coward. And if you're going to take money from AIPAC, I think you say something like, this is a group that has supported me from the very beginning. I don't turn my back on the people who support me. And guess what? The same people who hate you now are going to hate you after you say that, but at least you're not going to look like a doofus.
And frankly, respect. Like,
sure.
Yeah, like I'm not going to turn my back on people who like
are supporting me,
who have supported me my whole career. Like
right.
That's, it's like, yeah, turn your back on your best friend. Not going to happen.
Your best friend is Bibi Netanyahu.
Well, tough best friends. Yeah.
But on the
me
other
and my
hand,
friend Osama go way back.
On the other hand, Abdul Al-Sayed is catching some strays because he had audio leaked of him on a call with supporters, and he was talking about the race, and he said, quote, "You put one ogre on a pike and then everyone else gets the message, and all of a sudden starts to sound a lot different." I'm not totally sure what this means, but he's getting a lot of criticism for it because either he's talking about the Democratic Party as the ogre, basically that like we're putting the Democratic Party up on a pike and now everyone feels like they have like they are free to criticize the party, or the more sinister reading of this is he's talking directly about Haley Stevens, which then draws a whole line of like, why are you getting into this kind of dirty politicking and talking about your opponent that way? Regardless, he is drawing a lot of criticism from Democrats, not just the establishment. But the thing about this race is that I feel like Abdullah Sayed has, for the most part, except for this bizarre ogre comment, managed to not make a fool out of himself, but I'm not 100% sure about his ability to really ingratiate himself to the people of Michigan that he needs to ingratiate himself to. On the flip side, Haley Stevens keeps looking like an idiot on the internet, but does that actually matter as much with the connection with voters around issues like manufacturing that really matter? Whoever wins, are they screwed now because of how this is all happening? You know what I mean? Like, are they essentially setting each other up for failure no matter who wins?
And this is the tough thing, really in anything, right, is he doesn't have as much baggage and history as Haley does, right? Mm-hmm. So it's really hard for incumbents now, to deny like all the votes they've done, everything they've said in the past. This is just like an investment, right? When someone's like, "Oh, do the deal with me," and you're like, "Well, you don't have as much experience, but you haven't lost money either," mm-hmm. right? So do I go with you or not? And I think with Dr. Abdul, I like saying that, his ogre comment, like, why do you have to bring Shrek into this? Like, this is why people don't like the comment. It's like the #1 animated movie of all time. No one wants to be associated with that.
Is that why people don't like it?
I think that's why people don't like it. Bad choice of words, which once again, with all these politicians, you have one slip of the tongue and you're done. But let's face it, socials are firing on all cylinders for him over Haley.
100%. So,
I mean, but she was just, did you mention this? Who she was endorsed by?
Yes, by Gretchen Whitmer.
Okay, I forget if I heard that. So it's worth it. Okay.
It's very important that I think that's a very important endorsement. Yeah. I think Gretchen Whitmer is seen in the state as a positive figure. So we'll see. I guess my fear for Democrats is that these two candidates are going to sink each other, and that they'll lose the seat because of it. And I don't think they'll lose the seat because of who either of them are or what their policies are, but they'll lose the seat because of all the negative campaigning happening in the primary.
Yeah.
But we'll see.
Good point. Well, let's move on to Virginia. So we were able to interview Elizabeth Dempsey Beggs, who's one of the younger candidates who's running in this district. There are 7 Democratic candidates running right now, and the race is really led by Shannon Taylor, who's the front runner. She's also pretty young. She's under 50 years old. She is the Commonwealth attorney for one of the counties in Virginia, and she's also a former prosecutor. Why is she as the front runner? She has over $2 million raised with about $1 million in cash on hand, very strong endorsements. And she, she's focusing on a lot of messaging that's really touching all cylinders of, Virginia people today, right? It's public safety, healthcare, affordability. And this is what a lot of those candidates are all running on. As I mentioned, we spoke with Elizabeth Dempsey Beggs. And this is probably the candidate that we're most interested in. But she has a tough battle here. She's an attorney. She has a national security background. She's also a veteran. She's positioning herself as really the pragmatic Democrat with deep experience in public service, mostly focused around foster care. And she's a foster parent to some kids as well. So a lot of her campaign focuses on foster parenting, which I feel many people can relate to and empathize with as well. But Elizabeth's biggest issue is she doesn't have tons of fundraising right now. So she's probably one of the lower fundraisers, where I mentioned Shannon Taylor. She's raised over $2 million. Elizabeth is down in a couple hundred thousands, and with many people in the middle of those 6 candidates raising, between $300,000 and $600,000. And unfortunately, we all know the hardest thing for young candidates today is the fundraising aspect.
Definitely. I mean, I think what's also important about this race, and it seems like from talking to Elizabeth and then describing this woman, Shannon, is that this is a race where it's becoming a purple district. It historically has been a Republican district. And I think that you're going to see people who really do present as, again, like I feel like it's hard to categorize people these days, but like presenting as more of like a pragmatic kind of candidate, which I think Elizabeth does. It seems like this with this candidate Shannon does as well, that these people are essentially saying like, I care about the kitchen table issues, very different than an Abdul Al-Sayed or some of these other progressive, more far left candidates, that these women are saying, I want to take on this Republican because I believe that I can represent sort of where this district is shifting, which is kind of like maybe from the center right to the center left. And so it's important, I think, when we're looking at electoral politics, in my mind, this is the opposite of like the thing happening in Missouri. I wish there were more districts like this where the primaries were really about vying for who's the best candidate to represent the district instead of who has the loudest voice or who can create the most extreme policies or get certain endorsements. Because ultimately, I don't think that is representative of the people that they are saying that they're going to represent. So I really enjoyed our conversation with Elizabeth. I think it is so true that like fundraising is just such a huge part of electoral politics. But I also think at the same time, she's a very good communicator. And I don't think that should be, underestimated in this kind of a race. So we'll see what happens in Virginia and specifically in this swing district, which is going to be really important if Democrats want to try to take back the House.
Agreed. Yeah. It's going to be really interesting to see whatever Democratic candidate wins, like how they approach those other Republican candidates. And I remember from our conversation too, data centers was a huge topic of conversation, especially in the district that they're in.
Especially in their district. And again, an area of bipartisan support where some of that, the ability to kind of speak to both sides is really important for these candidates. So we'll see. Okay, lastly, we're going to talk about the crazy voters on Thursday, Tennessee. So this is actually less about what race we are watching, and it's more about what race we are not watching. Similar to your story about Missouri, after redistricting and the gutting of the Voting Rights Act by the Supreme Court recently, there is no longer a majority Black district in Memphis, Tennessee, which was the Democratic stronghold of the state. So most likely, Tennessee will be represented by all Republicans in Congress in this next cycle. And just for statistics' sake, Memphis is over 50% Black. So what I find really interesting about this is that not that, race is the only factor in politics, but obviously Black voters are a huge part of the Democratic voting bloc. And now there is a loss, in my opinion, a loss of representation in Memphis and therefore in Tennessee for these Black voters who, historically, the majority of which have been Democratic voters. And that kind of sucks. But what's, again, kind of like repeating the story in Missouri, how this ultimately just screws over voters. There are voters in Tennessee who have shifted districts twice in 3 cycles.
Wow.
So it's just
waste of money,
all the redistricting, all the gerrymandering. It's not making it easy for people to be involved. Someone might want to vote, but they are like, I don't know where I'm voting, who I'm voting for. I'm just not going to do it. And we want more voter engagement. We want more people to feel like they can be involved. So I find that to be very...
Is that the reason, do you think, maybe, too? That's like part of the reason for all the redistricting is to confuse people, and maybe they're like, honestly, voting, I don't know what I'm voting for anymore, and like, so I'm not going to vote.
Maybe. I mean, I think that there's...
Wow, I didn't think about that, honestly.
You heard it here first. Well, one notable candidate is Representative Justin Pearson, who is a state representative who famously got expelled from the Tennessee State House in 2023, if you remember that hoopla happening. And so he has always been was running in that majority Black district in Memphis. Now he's running in one of these newly drawn districts that is going to be a long shot for Democrats. So even if he wins the primary, he's a young guy, great public speaker, has a big following online because of what happened a few years ago in the state house. But now a lot of these Democrats don't even have a chance. And it all just kind of like is a big bummer, because I feel like what's happening is that true competition is being pulled out of politics. And I think the only way you get actual representation and actual leadership is through competition. And instead of competitive districts like the one that Elizabeth Dempsey Beggs is running in, we're seeing more and more districts like these in Tennessee and Missouri, where there's only like 4% of districts in the country now are purple. Everything else is a safe blue or red seat, which means that in the primary, you usually get the most extreme voice winning or the person with the most money winning, and you actually aren't getting a competitive political race between ideas for the most part. I think that's a little bit different when we talk about, the far left and the moderate left and the far right and the moderate right. But I think going through these primaries, even as we're just talking, it's just very clear that the system is not working, and the way that we are forcing voters to engage in their communities and for their communities is like slowly being chipped away at.
Yeah.
And I understand why people don't pay attention and don't vote, because it's confusing. And for those of us that haven't had these kinds of experiences in our district, we take it for granted. And then that's another reason why we don't vote. So,
don't cry, Anna. Don't cry. Just keep it together. Just keep it together.
I just want there to be some good, healthy competition so we can get this country back on track.
There we go. Nice.
Rah, rah, rah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for joining us today. If you enjoy listening to these episodes, please like, follow, subscribe wherever you are listening or watching this. And we hope that you'll leave us a nice little review and maybe some stars, preferably 4 or 5 of them. And that's all I got. Have a great week, everybody.
Cheers.